La condición alrededor no podría ser mejor para levantar a mis hermanos, hombres de valor. Ya hay conocimiento, la nación está creciendo. Agua de vida para mi sed estoy bebiendo. Entiende el que miente, la verdad no defiende. Si aprendes depende de lo que comprendes. El bombillo se prende y la falsedad suspende. A ti, a tus duendes y cualquiera que se ofende. Le invito a un sermón en cualquier callejón de la tribu de Efraín. Si preguntan quiénes son, los santos se preparan, que en esto continuaran, el mundo arrojaran y en el reino avanzaran. Estando todo escrito, sirves en tu contra. Es hora de trabajar, salgo de la sombra. Proverbios 6 y 10, el vago se deshonra. Al que responda, quizás le corresponda. No les tiro, sino que les advierto. No sé por cuánto tiempo el reino estará abierto. Ya no estoy hambriento, en la selva solo ando. Me mantengo preparando, siguiendo su comando. Espero no me crean para que así los investiguen. Que con la prueba en sus manos en lo claro se
All right, shalom, shalom. All praise to the Most High, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Yeah, let's get this going. All right, it's gonna be a quick one. Ain't gonna be too hard. Let me share my screen, and I want to. So I want to start off and say this is Kingdom Captivity, right? So a lot of people don't, believe in captivity in the kingdom, or there'll be any type of captivity in the kingdom. Mainly Christians, they think that everything is gonna be hunky-dory and everybody's gonna be one and everything's gonna be all sweet and everything's gonna be happy, right? All right, so a lot of the times they tend to think like that because of this verse right here. This is Genesis chapter 12, and this is verse 3, and it says, I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in these shall all families of the earth be blessed. So they think that because of this, that because of Abraham, that all families of the earth is going to be blessed. All right. And they think that because of this and other verses mainly found in the New Testament, that everyone could be part of the new covenant and enter in the kingdom and be in the kingdom more happy in one big multi-ethnic kingdom, right? Some of them even go far as to say that Israel is done away with, and now that the multi-ethnic church is Israel, right? So there won't be no captivity in the kingdom, right? So we are gonna go over some verses, and we're gonna show that there most definitely will be captivity in the kingdom. All right. I want to start off with. I actually want to start off with the Apocrypha. Do I? No, you know what? As a matter of fact, let's stay in the Bible real quick before we go to the Apocrypha. So I just read Genesis 12, right? Which they all think they're going to get blessed, but they don't see that it also says, and curse them who curse thee, right? So let's go to the book of Psalms, and we're going to go to chapter 83, and we're going to start at verse 3. And it says, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off, being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. So now it's going to start naming the nations that are against Israel, right? And it says the tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gabal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Osur also is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot. But now, watch verse 9. Verse 9 says, do unto them as unto the Midianites. So now the saying for Israel to do unto these nations as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jaban at the brook of Kison, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Verse 11. Make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeb, yea, all their princes as Zebah and Zalmunna, who said, let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. So you see these nations, right, that came up against Israel and wants to make Israel of no more remembrance. The scriptures is telling us, the Most High is telling us, do unto these nations as you did unto these other nations before. Look at, where is it real quick? Look at right, it says, which verse 10, which perished at Endor, they became as dung for the earth. So the Most High is telling us to make these nations as the dung for the earth, right? Edom, Amalek, Ammon, Moab, Tyre, all these nations that are coming against Israel, you will be as dung for the earth. That's what the scriptures are saying, right? When you go to Genesis, and when we was reading Genesis, how it says, and all the nations that curse thee shall be cursed, right? So now here in Psalms 83, you have a whole list of nations that basically cursed Israel, that came against Israel, right? And the Most High is saying, do unto them as you did unto your former enemies, and make them as dung of the earth. So that verse in Genesis where all nations of the earth shall be blessed, that's out the window. They lost their opportunity. All right. They lost their opportunity. Let's go back so you can see Genesis chapter 12, verse 3. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. Right? So they're going to be cursed because they didn't bless Israel. They cursed Israel. So they shall be cursed. Now, remember, this was a whole list, right, of nations. Now, watch this in the Apocrypha. This is Maccabees, right? First Maccabees 2 and verse 10. And it says, let me zoom in real quick. And it says, what nation have not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? So this is letting you know all the nations have had a part in our downfall. All the nations, all right? Um, there's not, see, this is the thing, right? When you look at Genesis and it says, I will bless thee I will bless them who blesses thee. But these nations don't know who the true Israelites are, so how can they bless them, right? Okay. So moving along, right? We know that Israel was scattered amongst all nations, right? This is let's go to James 1 and 1, right? James 1 and 1 says, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. So we know that Israel is in all nations, right? Right. Um, so now we know that all these nations have had us in captivity, right? Um, when you look at the New Testament and you look at Paul's letters, right? Mainly Paul, right? I'm talking about Paul. You look at books like Ephesians, right? Colossians, Corinthians, Thessalonians. Um, I don't know if anyone knows this or if anyone has been like actually paying mind, but check this out, right? Check this out. But where is Corinth? Right? Where is Corinth? So Corinth is in Greece, right? Yeah, I just thought that would be something that people need to pay attention to, right? Corinth is in Greece. So is Ephesus, right? Most of these books that Paul or letters that Paul wrote, they were in Greece or Rome, right? So this is a way to say why is Israel in these nations, right? And it's because they went into captivity into these nations. So Paul had to go to these nations and write to the children of Israel that was in these nations. Now you know what? Pay attention. These nations right here or Caucasian nations. Now, when you look at somebody who wants to say, well, all nations can be saved. Now look at Paul. Paul wrote to these nations. Well, it wasn't all nations that Paul was writing to. He was writing to the Israelites that were scattered in these Greek nations, these Greek captivities, right? These Roman captivities. If y'all pay mind, these are Caucasians. The whole salvation for everybody is a white supremacy doctrine. Straight up white supremacy doctrine. Because why is it that Paul isn't writing his letters to Egypt, Tyre, right? And places like this? Why is he only writing his letters to these Caucasian, so-called Caucasian places? And that's because Israel was scattered within the nations, right? Okay, moving along though. James 1:1. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. So now let's get right into it, right? Let's just get the scriptures. So this is just showing you that I'm gonna basically show you real fast that there ain't no unity and there ain't this one universal church and multi-ethnic church or whatever. All right. This is Psalms 2 and verse 8. And it says, ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Basically, in other words, we're gonna be possessing the heathen. All right. And I'm gonna go more into it. So let's go to Psalms 149. All right. Psalms 149. Let's just get there. Psalms 149. And we're going to start at verse 4. And it says, for the Lord taketh pleasure in his people. He will beautify the meek with salvation. Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud upon their beds. Let the high praises of God be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen and punishments upon the people, to bind their kings with chains and their nobles with feathers of iron, to execute upon them the judgment written. This is honor, have all his saints. Praise ye the Lord. So there's going to be vengeance upon the heathens. So this is the question that you have to ask people, right? That believe in like a universal salvation. This couple of verses that I just read right here mentions the saints, right? The saints are going to be the ones to execute this judgment, right? With a two-edged sword. But Christians would claim to be saints, so you have to ask them. So are you waiting to put these heathens in captivity? right? Are you claiming to be a saint, and are you ready to put these other nations in captivity? But you are part of these other nations. So you're going to put your own nation into captivity, because that's the duty of a saint, right? Let's read Revelations, right? Because it's reiterated in Revelations. Revelations 13 and verse 10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So if you claim to be a saint, this is what you're patiently waiting to put these other nations in captivity. Christians don't think, you see what I'm saying? They don't understand that this is the future for the other nations, captivity. All right. Um, so while we're in Revelation, let's just stay in Revelations real quick. Like I said, this is an easy topic, very easy class. This is gonna be fast. Um, this is Revelations 2 and 20, start at 26. And he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. So if you're of the other nations, you telling me that you're gonna rule the other nations also, even your own nation, and you're gonna, right? Look, it says verse 27, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and the as the vessels of potter, as of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my father. So are you saying that if you're a non-Israelite, you're gonna, and let's say you're Chinese, right? Let's say you're Asian, and you think that you're a saint, that means that you're gonna put your other Chinese people into captivity, or your other Asian people into captivity, and break them with a rod of iron? You see what I'm saying? That doesn't make sense. This is for Israel to the other nations. All right. Um, let's go look at, this is let's go to the Old Testament real quick, and I'm gonna show you that this kingdom is only for, this new kingdom to come is only for Israel. This is Daniel chapter 2 and verse 44, right? And it says, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom, right? New Jerusalem. This is the new kingdom, right? New Jerusalem. And it says, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So the kingdom that's to come shall not be left to other people. It's for Israel, right? It's for Israel and Israel only. Now watch this. Go back to Revelations, and I'm gonna show you something. Like I said, this is super simple and easy. You could get real in depth, but I encourage you to only go in depth when you have a scoffer and somebody who wants to come up against it. Then that's when you go in deep, because that's when you really cut them. So this is Revelations 11 and 2. And it says, but the court, remember Daniel 2 and 44, right? It says, but this is Revelations 1 and 2. It says, 11 and 2. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 40 and 2 months. So you see that the temple is not for the Gentiles. The Gentiles cannot even enter into the temple. But if it's all inclusive and it's all for everybody, why can't the Gentiles enter into the temple? Why do they have to stay in the court, which is without the temple, if it's all inclusive, right? It's just letting you know that the kingdom is only for Israel. Um, let me see if I can remember exactly where. Yeah, let's just Let's read all right, this is Revelations 21 and um, Revelations, yeah, 21 and 12. And it says, and had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and the names written therein, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. So we see that the whole kingdom is for Israel. We just read where the Gentiles can't even go into the temple and they have to stay outside of the temple. So now, according to some Christians, they would say that the temple is a spiritual temple, right? According to Ephesians, I think 2 and 21, I believe. But if it's a spiritual temple, Revelations, we just read in Revelations where the Gentiles cannot enter that temple. So even if it's a spiritual temple, the Gentiles cannot enter into that temple. So they not even part of it spiritually. See that? That blows the whole roof off of spiritual Israel. No such thing. No such thing. All right. So let's go to, like I said, this is very easy and very simple. Isaiah, right? Isaiah has all the first. Let's go to first I want to go to Isaiah 63, and then we could go elsewhere in Isaiah. So Isaiah 63 says, who is that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Verse 2. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth the wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me, for I will tread them in my anger and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. So we see that even the Messiah, because this is the Messiah, this is the same precept from Revelations, right? Where his vestures dipped in blood. So we see that the Messiah is even going to come back and cast vengeance upon these nations, starting with Edom, right? Starting with Edom. So there's no way that somebody can say there's going to be in some type of equality into the kingdom, right? Let's go to Isaiah 14 and show you that they're going to be captivity in the kingdom. This is Isaiah chapter 14, verse 1. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and yet will choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them. Uh-oh. Cut myself, right? Let's read. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. Right? Watch this. And they shall take them captives, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Listen, if that's not captivity, I don't know what captivity is. I mean, it tells you plain and simple that they're going to be our possession and they are going to be our captives. All right. It's clear and simple. Um, let's go to Isaiah 60. Isaiah 60. Hold up. is verse 12. Yeah, it says so. Um, let's start at verse 9. Surely the isles shall wait for me, and the ships of Tarshish first, to bring thy sons from far, their silver and their gold with them, unto the name of the Lord thy God, and to the Holy One of Israel, because he have glorified thee. And the sons of the strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually, they shall not be shut day or night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought. For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish, yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. So we see that these nations, if these nations don't serve, you're going to be gone. You're going to be utterly wasted. These nations that survive whatever destruction that comes, you have one duty, and that one duty is to serve the children of Israel. Right? Look at verse 14. Verse 14 says, the sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and all they that despise thee shall bow themselves down at the soles of thy foot, and they shall call thee the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. So, plain and simple, yeah, captivity will be in the kingdom. Like I said, this is an easy subject. This is there's no way around this subject, right? And even if you want to say that, hey, look, other nations have salvation. First off, you have to prove that the other nations have salvation. And one thing that I want whoever's watching this, I just want you to do this, right? When somebody says, oh, these other nations have salvation, tell them to show you the proof, right? Most likely they're going to take you somewhere where Paul says, first to the Jew, then to the Gentile, right? First off, they have to explain what Gentile is that. They might take you to a place like Galatians 3:28, and it says there is neither Jew nor Greek. The question is, why Greek? Why isn't it any other nation? Why is he saying Greek? Second question is, are you a Jew? No. Are you Greek? No. Then what the hell does that have to do with you? See what I'm saying? You can't let these Christians say things like this and insert themselves into this salvation or into this grafting in, so to speak, when they can't even explain who those people that are being grafted in are. Right? In Ephesians, it says called to be saints, right? So if you call to be saints, then you're gonna do what the Bible says that the saints are ready to do, which is put these other nations into captivity. Right? But they won't do that because they're not saints. That means that they are not part of that. They are not part of that salvation. When you look at who the new covenant is for, and we'll get that, let's just get it real quick, right? Since we here. Let's go to New Testament, Hebrews, and chapter 8. Hebrews chapter 8. So verse 8 says, for finding fault with them, he saith, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. No other nation, Israel and Judah. And verse 9, not according to the covenant that I made with them, with their fathers, in the day when I took them by the hand, right, to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continue not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. So remember, it says not like the first covenant, right? That when they came out of Egypt, this is a new covenant, right? It says, for this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts. So the only difference between the old covenant and the new covenant, or the covenant when they came out of Egypt and this new covenant, is that the law is going to be planted in your heart. You're not going to have the opportunity to say, yes, I agree to this covenant. That's no more. Now you're automatically going to be part of this covenant and automatically do the laws. That's the difference between this new covenant and the old covenant. All right. Now, here's where you catch these Christians. Oh, they say, oh, look, first you just all you have to do is hit them with the law first, right? Oh, the law. They'll be like, oh no, no one could keep the law because we're all sinners. Oh, we're all sinners, really? So, but I thought we were in the new covenant. How can you be a sinner and be in the new covenant when the new covenant, it says it itself right there that the law will be in your heart? You would do the law. You'll be programmed to do the law, but yet you're a sinner. You see what I'm saying? Is Christianity is a contradiction. Christianity is a complete contradiction. So this is how you catch them out there with stuff like that. Just saying simple things like that. Like, if you think you're in the new covenant, how are you in the new covenant if you don't do these laws? See? You don't even know the laws, but you're in the new covenant. Again, it says, verse 10, for this is the covenant that I will make with thee, with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind, meaning you would always be thinking about the laws, you would know the laws, and I would write them in their hearts, meaning you would want to keep it. You would want to do it. You're gonna do it. See? But these Christians and these phony Israelites too would claim to be in the new covenant, claim to be, saved by grace and all this other stuff, and just off, right? You're not in the new covenant because the Messiah is not even ruling, and you still trying to learn. So if you was in the new covenant, you wouldn't have to do this because you would know, right? You would know everything. Watch this, verse 11. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord, for all shall know me, from the least to the greatest. So everyone would know the Most High. Everyone would know of the Most High. And when you know of the Most High, you know of his ways. So, that whole thing is crazy. When you look at, again, captivity in the kingdom, the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, chapter 14, completely show you that there's gonna be captivity in the nation. Revelations 2 automatically tells you that there's gonna be captivity, right? And that there's gonna be destruction, and these nations are gonna have to pay. Psalms 149 also says that there would be vengeance. Again, First Maccabees 2 and 10 shows us that these people and these other nations never cared, and they always had us in subjugation, and it was every nation that had us in subjugation. So how is it that in the kingdom everything is going to be cool now? No. That means that the Most High is not a just God, and his words come back void if that's the case, right? So like I said again, this is a simple understanding lesson, man. It's really fast, really easy. Like I said, there's a lot more that you could go into, but if you know these scriptures, then you would want to wait to at least me, me. I like to wait for scoffers to come, and then hopefully I can have a debate. That's my end game. I'm not gonna give everything. I want people to scoff and talk crap so then I can invite them on and have a debate. That's my end game. I give you a little bit, I show you what's there, and do your studies. Do your studies. But for those naysayers and those who think I'm wrong, I invite you to come on and let's talk about it. All right. So again, this is a quick lesson, quick, little, easy, fast lesson, man. I hope the little bit was edifying. And all right, back to your regularly scheduled, man. All praise to the Most High. Shalom.